Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Aleph Podcast. Today, for our 50th episode, we have a long time coming guest, Mr. Asad Ahmed.
Good to be here,
The
finally.
godfather of Pakistani rock, basically.
That's just a title that I've been given.
So how are you, sir?
Good. It's good to be here. I was here the last time when we did the Guitar Collective.
Yeah, and funnily enough, that was like the start of this podcast. Basically, we did that little conversation. उसके बाद हमने सोचा कि क्या कहते हैं एक पॉडकास्ट ही शुरू करते हैं.
And it's great. I've been watching a lot of them, and it was good to see my old buddy Rizwan
Oh yeah.
on the podcast. I hadn't seen him for a long time.
And that turned out to be one of our most popular episodes.
Episodes,
right?
yeah.
You know, he was like, no one's gonna know me, etc. But a lot of people are lurking, waiting for these characters to come out.
Yeah.
So, but it speaks to how, of how much of an impact that early rock era of the late 80s had on the, the
Sure.
local youth and population and stuff.
Sure. I guess at that time, like he was saying, there was not much going on.
Yeah.
It was a very top 40 kind of scene. You'd play the flavor of the week, and then you'd move on.
Yeah.
There was very little original music, and the original music that was around was definitely not rock music. It was something else. It was filmy music. It was heritage music.
Yeah.
But it definitely wasn't rock.
So take us back to, your beginnings, like obviously I know you're a huge Kiss fan, but when did the fire kind of start in you?
When did the bug hit?
Yeah.
It happened over a period of time, actually. My parents are partly to thank for this. I was lucky that my parents were musically inclined. So my mom was the first person who made me hear, actually both of them. So my dad's music was Elvis and Bill Haley and the Comets, and mom's music was the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and early Santana.
Acha.
So those LPs were always in the house.
Yeah.
So they'd constantly be, ringing in my ears. And then it was, sometime in the 70s, they had gone on vacation to the US. And when they came back, a whole bunch of LPs came in, which one was the Rolling Stones Sticky Fingers, the one with the zip.
Yeah.
And one looked like a bunch of cartoon superheroes, and that happened to be Kiss Alive. And I would just stare at it. I never heard it. I would just stare at it, and I was like, wow, they look like Superman and Batman. It's a kid. And then my brother, who's an architect, and also partly the reason why I got into guitar, he taught me how to play.
Yeah.
He brought home a tape of, I think it was Rock and Roll Over, which was their fifth or sixth album. And he said, listen to this. If you want to hear what Kiss sounds like, listen to this.
Yeah.
So he put that on, and that's where it started. So I would say around 77, 78.
Yeah, and you were like 6, 7.
I was 7 years old.
That's right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Wow. So then how early did you start like getting guitar lessons from your brother?
He had a boogie amp and a small combo boogie and a Yamaha electric, which was like a Strat type thing.
Kind of like type.
Yeah, they were called something else at that time.
Yeah.
And he showed me my very first riff, which was Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple. I think everyone's been through that. Yeah. And then the second thing I learned was Paranoid. So these were the first two. And he used to say to me, look, yeah, Kiss is all right, but if you really want to listen to rock music, Black Sabbath and Deep Purple are it. For his generation, that was what it was.
Yeah.
And then I started listening to a lot of his music, which was Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, Uriah Heep, the Scorpions, early Scorpions with Uli John Roth and Michael Schenker, stuff like that. The actual Kiss bug was when we when we went to England in 1980, and they were on tour, and the opening act was Iron Maiden with Paul Di'Anno, the first album.
Wow.
So they wanted to go see that for Iron Maiden, not Kiss, right? The brothers.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see Kiss. So I fought with my parents. I have to go. I'm a 9-year-old kid going to a rock show.
Oh my God.
And my parents were like, yeah, I don't know, maybe, no, yes, no. Eventually they gave in. And so that was my first show.
That must have been mind-blowing.
Yeah, it completely changed
World-changing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And at that age, matlab.
Yeah, 9 years old, I was like, I remember being bug-eyed and I was like, wow, I was trying to soak everything in.
Yeah. So, at that point, did you already start like dreaming कि मैंने guitar सीखना है और बजाना है?
Before then, it was just comic books for me.
Yeah.
Big comic book fan.
For me too.
Yeah. It was just comic books, and then this sort of translated into so comic book come to life kind of thing.
These characters,
superheroes, and they had Kiss comics and Kiss movies, and there's a movie of the week on NBC. I remember getting that on VHS back when we had VHS. So yeah, that, and then I was like, okay, I can do that too. Maybe not like they do, but I can play.
Yeah.
So yeah, I asked my brother, show me a couple of chords. How do you write a song?
Yeah.
What is a verse, a chorus, a bridge?
Like, did your brother have like bands and stuff?
My brother used to gig in Dubai when we were there. And when he went off to college, his guitar and his amplifier were left with me. So sure enough, I would plug in and bang away. And I didn't know, it was a tube amp. So somewhere along the way, it started,
crackling
and changing. And I was like, there were no mobile phones, so I'd have to tell my parents, I need to call. I need to call Imad and ask him. They're like, why?
Yeah.
It's like, the amplifier's not working. So give it to the bloody store, they'll fix it. I was like, no, I need to know. So he told me, he said, go change the tubes.
Yeah.
So that was the very first time I realized, okay, so tubes need to be changed. So this is around 1984 maybe. Around that time.
And proper hair metal era.
Yeah. By then it was, Van Halen was the big gun.
Yeah.
They were the biggest band in the world at that time. A rock band.
And rock was mainstream.
Yeah, 83 was the first time a rock album went number one, which was Quiet Riot. And then that just opened the floodgate. And then there was the Motley Crues, the Rats, the this, the that.
Yeah.
All of that. So that was a hair metal, very hair metal time. And then it just became ridiculous because you had all these other bands who were like faceless. They just kind of looked like a lot of these better bands. But so I grew out of that fairly quickly, actually, and gravitated towards blues.
So what was your entry point for blues then?
When I was in school in Karachi, the very first school I went to was the Academy. It doesn't exist anymore. It was on Khaibane Shamsheer, main road, just before 26th Street. And that's where I first met a guy called Amir Zaki. He was 2 classes senior to me. And the very first day, I'll never forget this. The very first day I went to school wearing a Kiss Creatures of the Night t-shirt and my torn jeans. Long scruffy hair. And everybody was looking like
he gone aa gaya.
Preppy, crew cut, starched shirt, pant, full, uniform. And I was like, ye kaun log hain bhai? Kahan aa gaye? I had just come back from Dubai.
Yeah.
So the very first guy at break time who came up to me was Amir Zaki. He said, cool shirt, man. I like that. So we just bonded. I was like, so you like music? Yeah, I like music. Blah, blah, blah. I'm a guitar player. Oh, okay. I also play a little bit of guitar. And we became friendly, and then we used to hang out.
And you're like how old at this point?
I was in class 8. He was in first year O-level.
So like 13 type, 14 maybe.
Yeah. And we used to hang out. I would go over to his place. He used to live in KDA. He would come over to my place, and then he got friendly with Imad, my brother, as well, because Imad was a very good Mark Knopfler type guitar player. So his finger technique is fantastic.
Yeah.
So Amir was very taken by that, finger technique, because at that point Amir Zaki was a Randy Rhoads kind of guy.
Full shredder.
Yeah. I mean, he could just he could play Ingve Malmsteen at that time. So it was I miss the guy. But anyway, so long story short, Amir said, why don't we make a band? I was like, yeah, let's do it. So that band actually became the Barbarians. A cover band, no original material by then. We said, okay, we're going to cover Van Halen, Bon Jovi, Flavor at the time, Def Leppard, Scorpions, so on and so forth.
Right.
So we started gigging around. We did a lot of shows around. Back then it was more school shows.
Was it challenging to find like a drummer and bass player and stuff? Like, what was Zaki doing in the band at that point?
Zaki was the lead guitar player initially. I was the rhythm guitarist.
Yeah.
Good question. Nadeem Jafri was the first keyboard player.
Yeah.
And who we lovingly call Spanky for reasons only we know. Amir Rauji was the drummer, the first drummer of the Barbarians. And who else was there? Jamal Afridi on bass. Of course, my buddy. So yeah, we used to rehearse. I'll never forget this. Amir Rauji had this servant quarter at the back of his house.
Yeah.
And it was basically a room without any windows, without any ventilation, nothing.
A den.
And no fan.
Oh, no.
And we were such idiots. We would lug our stuff in there and we would play and play for like 3 hours. And by the end of it, if you opened that door, there was this stench coming out of sweat.
Yeah.
It was disgusting.
Yeah.
So we very quickly remedied that. I was like, yeah, there's no way we can rehearse like this.
Yeah.
So then we started rehearsing at my house. And God bless my parents, they didn't say a word. They said, just make sure that it's
nice.
A certain volume and it doesn't go beyond.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then we started taking gigs. Yeah, we started taking school gigs, college gigs. We played at the American School. We would play at St. Michael's. We played here. We played there. And then back then there was a event that used to happen, which the Kidney Center used to organize, called the Walk a Cause.
Yeah, there were like bands posted around.
Yeah. So you'd be on a trailer,
basically,
set up and playing. So we do those as well. It was a good, it was a very safe time. And had I been a little smarter at the time in terms of creating an industry, I was a kid.
Yeah.
That was the right time to sort of take this and make it into this thing and establish live venues, clubs, all of that, because we could have done it at that time. And had it been in place now, it would have been so much easier for everyone who came after.
Yeah.
But
at the time, who was to know what's going to happen?
Yeah, nobody knew. Nobody knew.
So at this point, were you like, when you're playing with the Barbarians and stuff, were you like, oh, this is going to be my profession? Or was it still a hobby type thing at the point?
It was, I was definitely in between somewhere. There was this pressure on me that you have to, there is pressure on every parent wants their child to have something to fall back on.
Yeah.
So my parents wanted me to have something to fall back on.
Yeah.
And they insisted that finish your O and A levels, get a college degree, and then do whatever the hell you want to do. Then we're done. Our work is done. And fair enough.
Yeah.
So I went about doing that. And, so it hadn't become a full-time thing for any of us, actually, except Amir, maybe. Our drummer, Amir Raoji, was studying at Aga Khan University.
Yeah.
Jamal was at, I think it was NED. He was studying to be an engineer. I was doing my A levels. So no, I think only Amir had the idea that, okay, I'm going to be a full-time musician.
Yeah.
It was only after, I think I was in my first year of college that I realized, yaar, this is a scam.
Yeah, exactly.
This whole idea of going to college and stuff, this is a scam. Life is a much better teacher, and common sense should prevail. It's
like assembly line of just robots when you think.
Yeah. That's when I said, okay, now I'm going to be a full-time musician. So this is around, I'd say 1991.
But yeah, so then 91 you decided.
Yeah, 91 I decided that I want to do this full time.
Yeah.
And by then the Barbarians had wrapped. We had recorded 2 songs for Music Channel Charts, which was this TV show that used to come on PTV. And then we had done a whole album, which had been shelved by the record company. And this record company was EMI, which somehow figures into the story later. And
So that was an album of originals.
that was 10 songs. I recently found the master tape at EMI.
Wow.
So we did that. They released it in very limited quantities because it was a rock album, and it was the first rock album that was released in Pakistan.
Yeah.
This is before Junoon. Just so that you know. Sal, don't get too angry. I was coming out of that, and I was like, yeah, okay, what do I do next? And then Sal figures into the story. I get this call from Salman Ahmed, who's the Vital Signs guitarist at the time. And he says, yeah, Asad, we desperately need a bass player because we've done this album and I want you to play with us. So I said, okay, sure. Did that for about a year.
How was it playing bass for you? Like, did you
try
your hand at it before that?
Yeah, I would play Jamal's bass a lot. And in fact, when we were recording the Barbarians album, how for a guitar player, it's a little easier to sort of play the more intricate sort of parts.
Yes.
So I loved playing bass, and I still do. So I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, how difficult can Junoon music be?
Yeah.
Really. So I said, "Theek hai, sure." So we did that, and we played for about a year. But I was like, yeah, okay, now this is getting really boring.
Yeah.
I need 2 more strings here.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was at a show in Islamabad where I got off the stage with Junoon, and there were these 2 guys, Haroon and Fakir.
This was a Marriott show.
This was at the Marriott, the Islamabad Marriott. And they came up to me and they said, we're Awaz and we're the first band on MTV. They had already been on MTV. So MTV was based in Hong Kong at the time and was part of the Star TV network. So they had the distinction of being the first Pakistani act to ever appear on MTV with a song they had called Jaan-e-Man. And they said, okay, here's our demo tape. We're working with Rohail Hyatt on our album. And we really, need a guitar player. So would you like to join?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'll speak to Rohail. I knew Rohail from the Vital Signs.
Yeah.
And I gave him a buzz. And he told me that you should totally take the gig. Pepsi's going to, they didn't know that Pepsi was going to be picking them up. So I knew that Pepsi was going to be picking them up as a sponsor. He said, Pepsi's going to pick them up. I pitched them. The album's almost done. There's a couple of tracks that need to be done and you need to put guitars on. And there's this one track which is a rock kind of riff. And only you can do that. I was like, okay, fine. So I went to Pindi where Rohail's studio was and heard the whole album in its entirety. I hated it because it was pop. And it wasn't just pop, it was like as pop can get. Boy band pop.
Yeah.
And then I had this epiphany sitting there listening to it, realizing that I'm living in Pakistan in 1992, where there's nothing.
Yeah.
No rock bands, no nothing. We just did a rock album, it got shelved.
Yeah.
Junoon's first album came out, died. It wasn't until the third album that they actually... I was like, who am I? Why am I kidding myself?
Yeah.
This is what I should be
Very
doing.
practical thinking.
Let's jump into this and sort of, It wasn't even a sellout. It was just it was a moment of realization that, you live in Pakistan in the 90s.
Yeah.
You want to make this a career, you want to make a living. This is what you'll have to do. And then later on, you can do whatever the hell you want to do once you're in the door. So I said, "Theek hai." I took the gig, finished the album, got along famously with the guys. They were really nice guys, actually. And to this day, I'm still friendly with them. More so with Haroon than with Fakir, but they're both nice guys. And then that journey started. That was, I like to lovingly call that the corporate years.
Yeah. But that really took off. Like
that was huge.
It was like they were touted as the next vital signs and stuff like that.
It was huge and it was eye-opening in the sense that that was the first time some of my dreams came to fruition. One was I had seen Kiss at Wembley Arena with Iron Maiden. 1 year later, I found myself headlining Wembley Arena with Awaz.
That is insane.
On that stage, and
just a year later.
So if you go backstage at Wembley Arena, there's this Hall of Fame area. So they've got pictures of all the guys that the Zeppelin. So I remember that moment when Haroon, Fakir, and myself were there. We got out of the green room, and we went into this hallway, and all three of us were just staring at this wall, and we said, we saw a lot of these people on this stage, and now we're here. So we were really, it was a moment where I think all of us said, this is why we got into this.
Yeah.
Fuck the boy band thing.
Yeah.
We did it.
But as far as being from coming from a rock background, how was it doing those shows for you? Like with Awaz, you didn't have like a backing band, did you? Like it was more.
Back then, it was guitars were live. Keyboard solos were live. Drums were on DAT. Bass was on DAT. We had a guy standing in, pretending to play bass, and all the vocals were live. And the keyboard chords were also.
We've come full circle. Aajkal yahi ho raha hai.
So yeah. And of course, being a Kiss fan, and Haroon's also a Kiss fan.
Yeah.
That very first show, we insisted on pyro. So we had a lot of pyro. I'll never forget it. We had told the pyro guy ke gora tha. So he understood. I said, man, have you been to a Kiss concert? So he's smiling at me and he's like, we can't do that. We need this permit and we need that permit. I was like, okay, fine. Can we at least have like smoke bombs and this bomb and that bomb? He's like, there's absolutely no bomb that we can use. So I said, what the hell can we use? So legally over there, the explosion or the flame or the sparkler has to be below 6 feet.
Okay.
So we were like, 6 feet, wo to sala nazar hi nahi aayega. I was like, put the pyro on a riser. So that was my idea. put the pyro on a riser. So the pyro was about 6 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
So that people could see it. And sure enough, it worked. So we had the flames that were 6 feet. We had the sparkle effect, which is called a gerb, which was 6 feet.
Yeah.
We had the smoke bomb, which went up to 6 feet. But it worked. And then we got off stage and we were like, yeah, yeah, that was great.
Awesome. So, क्या कहते हैं then Jadoo Ka Chiragh was the second album?
Was the second album, yeah. So the first album came out on EMI.
Yeah.
The second album was done very quickly. We got done with our tour of the UK, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Pakistan. And there was pressure on us, that now we have to follow this up, otherwise we're going to die. So we rushed into the studio.
And किस studio में ये काम हो रहा है?
Multiple studios. So Amir Hassan figures into this story. We recorded 3 songs at Amir Hassan's studio at that time. We did a couple of songs at Nizar Lalani's studio. And some we just did on our own. We had a very basic setup. Those were the days of ADAT.
Yeah.
So.
And what was your method of recording guitar? I mean, I want to come back to the Barbarians album as well.
Sure.
As far as the recording. But
during the Awaz days, I would be using, it was a rack unit called a Digitech GSP 101 or 201 or something. It was a double rack. And it had, you could only control it with a MIDI foot controller. So I had this Roland MIDI foot controller.
Yeah.
And I would make patches clean, distorted rhythm, distorted solo, clean solo. And I would make that and sort of.
So that had basically modeling in it.
Yes. It was very primitive.
Yeah.
But.
And that would go straight to the reel.
That would go straight to the reel, and live it would go straight to the board.
Acha.
Yeah.
So you didn't have the Kira to record an amp.
No, but when we went to England and when we would do the US and England shows and the Dubai shows, I would always say, yaar, I want a wall of Marshalls. Now this boy band with a wall of Marshalls, none of them were plugged in.
Yeah.
They were just there for show.
Yeah.
So when you went to see an Awaz show in England, you'd essentially be seeing like this Black Sabbath rig behind us. Wall of Marshalls.
Yeah.
Like 10 of them. Double stacks. Just covering the whole stage. And none of them were on. So now you know.
As my first gig when I went to England was the Slayer show.
They would have.
Yeah. And I think some of them were on.
They were all on.
But okay, but then I remember from my youth, I think I was like maybe 8-9 years old when Jadoo Ka Chiragh came out. And in school amongst my peers, that was a huge hit. Like, we would have that cassette on all the time. And I remember the video as well, like usme wo koi sand dunes ka situation
tha. It was all shot in Karachi.
Who shot the video?
That was Asim Raza actually.
Okay.
And that was his first project, I believe. Great guy. He came up with this concept that you're going to be like pirates.
Yeah.
And we said, okay, cool, whatever. I personally was never interested in the video aspect of it all. I was like, let's just go out and play. It was very old school sort of this thing.
Yeah.
But the fact was that by then you had MTV, you had Channel V.
Yeah.
And you had to have music videos.
And Harun and Fakhir were very much into the choreographed moves and dancing and everything, right?
Harun is a very good example of a guy who is the entire package. So he would be sitting there thinking about, okay, this is how we should look. This is how we should perform. This is the kind of clothes we should be wearing. This is what we want to convey. So he had the picture. He had the big picture that, okay, this is what we're going to present to the world. So when it came to videos, he was very hands-on with with these guys. I would never bother. I was like, yeah, whatever you want to do, just tell me the time and
the guy
place.
with the
I'll
guitar
go,
and the long hair,
I'll do it. I'm not bothered about anything else.
Yeah.
Except the music.
Yeah.
So that's
as
how
far
it
as
was.
musically, did you feel like you had an influence into the sound of what
so
they were trying to do?
By the time we did Jadoo Ka Chiragh, the song Jadoo Ka Chiragh is a riff that I came up with, and then Haroon, and we did this in his drawing room in Islamabad. Haroon just started saying la 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 la, and then we put words to it, and it's the same chord progression that I came up with back then.
Yeah.
Which was a B minor, a D, and a E. That was it.
Yeah. Do you remember it?
Yeah.
Let's say we're trying out our new format here.
So it was.
That was behind Jadoo Ka Chiragh.
That's what it was.
Yeah, nice.
And I was just playing, I was banging on those chords, and he was. That's how that came out. So we did 3 singles off that. One was Jadoo Ka Chiragh, one was Shaba, Bol Zara Hoye Hoye Shaba. God, I can't stand that song. And the third one was a rocker called Aa Jao. Which was a very rock and roll kind of thing.
Yeah.
And again, I'll play that riff.
Yeah.
Came up with that riff, and again, Haroon was just scatting lines. So I think the riff was. That kind of thing.
Very blues.
Yeah, very blues.
So then we move into. At this point, were you already having thoughts कि मुझे कहीं अपना rock roots में वापस चलना है, or were you like happy to go with this train?
Because when we did the Jadoo Ka Chiragh world tour, we did England twice on that tour. We had become really, what people don't realize is, because they weren't there, they were in Pakistan.
Yeah.
We had become so big in England that Sony BMG started approaching us, ke, we want to record you here, we want to release your album here. We want to promote you as a
UK,
British this thing. So that's how big we had become, and we were doing Wembley Arena, we were doing Manchester Free Trade Hall, again, legendary venue, Birmingham NEC. I mean, these are the venues that we were doing consistently. So, and selling them out. So, the buzz amongst the record companies had started with the first time we went there, but they were a little wary, are these guys going to last? Or is this just a one-hit sort of thing? So when we went back the second time, we did 2 UK tours for that album.
Wow.
And these guys approached us towards the end and said, KR, we're very interested in recording an album, and that became the Shola album. So this is, I think, 95, around then. So we relocated to England. Haroon and Fakir were staying in Canary Wharf. And so the record company had given us an apartment. And I was staying with my girlfriend at the time. So I was on Gloucester Road.
Wow,
more
posh.
central. So I'd catch the train and go up. We were recording in a studio in Acton with this engineer, great guy. I forget his name. He was a Jew.
Okay.
but he wasn't of the mindset कि यार ये, you know,
ये मुसलमान
ये मुसलमान है या ये है. He was a very nice guy.
Yeah.
Richard Lightman.
Oh.
Richard Lightman is his name. Yeah, came back to me.
And
It was-
what kind of studio was it? What kind of stuff? They were
proper-
doing like bands and stuff there?
Proper. He had recorded UFO.
Oh wow. So they had like a
So
console
they were like,
and everything.
yeah, the works.
Amazing.
When I went there and I started playing, he turned around to me. He's the one who actually made me think about leaving the band. He said, "What are you doing with these guys?" He said, "What? You don't belong here.
Yeah.
You should be." And then he put on this UFO album that he recorded.
Yeah.
And he was like, "This is what you should be doing. Why are you doing this?" You know. So he got me thinking, "Okay, I need to get back to my sort of rock roots."
Yeah.
And then I had this whole conversation with him. I was like, "Look, I can go back to doing this, but I prefer playing at Wembley Arena." You know. So he was laughing and he was like, "Yeah, I get it, but no pain, no gain."
Yeah.
And he was right. So when we finished that album, that was the Mr. Fraudier album. We came back, we did the videos. Pepsi renewed our contract for the 100th year, and the money was coming in, and we were. This is another thing. People think that, you know, it's all fine and rosy, and when you sign up with a corporate company,
Yeah.
and they are your sponsors, they have expectations of you. So there was a lot of things that I didn't agree with. For example, why should an artist have to wear a Pepsi t-shirt at a concert?
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I refused to do it, and I never did it. The rest of the guys did. I never did it. Why should I be drinking Pepsi
Yeah.
whenever I'm seen in public? I don't want to.
अच्छा, it's
Maybe
इस
आप-
किस्म की मतलब fine
Yeah, so
tuned
they had
expectations.
these kind of things, and this is worldwide, mind you. This is
Yeah.
not just us. This is everywhere. If
Yeah.
you're like Michael Jackson had to do this crap as well. And he was signed with Pepsi for a while.
Yeah.
So all of this stuff, I was like, yeah, you know, this is bullshit. You know. So I was getting sick of all of that as well, and then the fact that when we made this album, I had a whole bunch of songs that I had done for the album. And when I presented them, they were like, no, you know, we need to tailor it to England's market. And I was like,
Right.
screw that, yeah, this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it became the worst selling album that the band did. And I was right. And I put that, you know, I waved that in front of their faces. I told you so.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then at some point, I made the decision, yeah, this is not going to happen. I'm out. I'm out of here. So I left. I stayed in London with my girlfriend for a bit.
Yeah.
Did a few sessions there.
Yeah.
You know, with a reggae band, with some rock bands. And then came back and, you know, kind of said, yeah, okay, theek hai. Let me put together some sort of unit which can possibly cross over
Yeah.
and you know, be rock and yet be commercial enough to sort of cross over.
Yeah.
So I came back, and Sameer Ahmed, the bassist, who was the bassist when Jamal Afridi left in the Barbarians, he had just come back from Los Angeles. And he told me, yeah, there's this new singer, he's really good. I was like, what's his name? He said, Najam Sheraz. So I said, never heard of the guy. Yeah, and I hadn't.
Yeah.
You know, so he had one song out, and it was, I think, Mere Aankhon Mein Samai Ek Ladki or something. Yeah, was that the song? So I heard it. I didn't think very much of it.
Yeah.
But he said, you have to hear this guy live. I've heard him live. He's killer. I was like, okay, let's go see him live. So we went to one of his shows.
Right.
Undercover. I was wearing a topi and, like a hoodie and the works. And I was standing there in the crowd and watching him undercover. And we heard like 3-4 songs. And I just looked at Sami and I said, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. This guy can do it. So we gave him a call. We talked. I told him I want to do an album. We've written a few songs. I had been writing consistently since that, England session.
Yeah.
So I had songs, and Sameer sort of fine-tuned them with me. By the time Najam came in, he heard those choruses, verses. We'd have choruses, verses, and he just took it to another level and was really comfortable because you would think a guy would take a little bit of time adjusting. We were up and running within a week.
Wow.
We finished the album in maybe 10 days.
Amazing.
It was effortless. He's a one-take singer. I recorded him for that album. He would insist on rehearsing.
And what was the setup then? Like, did you have
I had a Soundcraft 24-channel board.
Yeah.
With Alesis ADAT. So we did that on 8 tracks. Bounced a whole bunch of shit on that.
Yeah.
Because you need more than 8 tracks.
Yeah.
But that was a fun album, and he just nailed it. He would do his main vocal take in one take. Then he would insist on doing the harmonies himself. He was like, no, nobody else is going to do. You recreate this live, but I'll do them. I was like, okay. And sure enough, he'd do it in one take. He was perfect. Perfect. Can't say enough good things about him.
So, coming from, Awaz to Karavan, obviously, the attention and the big commercial appeal, ek taraf Awaz ki,
right.
And then trying to build something back from the ground up with Karavan. How was that big shift for you?
It was an eye opener and a humbling moment because I knew that this isn't going to be as big.
Yeah.
I had already come to terms with that, but it was something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And as an artist, you can't say no to that feeling, because you just gotta do it.
Yeah, and as a rocker guy, as a guitar player, you want to be with a rock band.
Sure. So we did it, and we found Najam Sheraz, who's a phenomenal singer. We went to see him. Did we do that story?
Yeah, we did that story. So let's talk about the reception to the album.
Right. So when we released the album came out in 1997. I was simultaneously touring with the Vital Signs at that time as well.
Acha.
So we had done the Hum Tum album with the Vital Signs, and we had gone to accept our award as from BBC in England as at that time the Vital Signs were given the award as the biggest Asian act in the world.
Wow.
So that coincided with a UK tour as well. So we went to do that. That was the first time Gumby came into the picture. The Vital Signs had gone completely live. Otherwise, they were also very much like Awaz.
That must have been a big moment for the band and shift in approach and everything.
It was amazing to be there. The show that we did was for the BBC was in Birmingham, and I think video exists of that as well. The cool thing about that was that the engineer for the night at the PA system was a guy called Big Mike, who was Metallica's sound man. So, when we found out that Big Mick is there, we all went, during sound check to meet him.
Yeah.
And I spent hours with him. How do you do James Hetfield's rig and Kirk Hammett's rig, and he was a wonderful guy.
Wow.
So anyway, we did the show, we got the award, and then we went on and we did the tour. So when I got back from that tour, the album was about to come out, and I was nerves were on edge. Okay, how is this going to do? Will we get any traction?
Yeah.
So the album comes out, and this is.
And who would you release it through?
We did it independently. I had the CDs manufactured in the US.
Yeah.
And the tapes, there were no tapes actually. Rakh Aas, the tapes
CD
came
album.
out after the CD, and they were done by VCI.
Okay.
Sajjad Panjwani, God bless his soul.
Yeah.
He helped me with that. So that came out, did fairly well, and we got this push that we needed. But sure enough, the minute we sent the video to PTV, the censorship board came back to us and said, we're not going to air this.
And the reason was?
We were like, why? They were like, ye leather pants or lambe baal, ye hum hamare television channels pe promote nahi karenge. So this is around the same time Junoon also got banned from PTV.
Yeah.
So this was basically a crackdown on all the bands that had long hair, dressed differently, weren't preppy looking. And that really, that was we were really upset about that. And of course, me being me, I fought it till the end.
Yeah.
And we got back on PTV. How we did that, I'm not going to divulge here because many steps were taken through various channels.
Screws were
sure that we get what we want.
Yeah. But you have to. At the end of the day, Pakistan isi tarah chalta hai. Absolutely. But by then the damage had already been done as far as this lineup was concerned. Because Najam was getting concerned with, we're not getting enough traction, the album's been out for so long, our video's not playing, what do we do? Radio was non-existent at that time. Right.
FM came later.
Yeah.
So I turned to the press, and we got a ton of press for that album. And I pulled in all of my contacts, everybody who I knew. I was like, just keep bombarding so that we stay in the public eye. And it worked. It kind of worked. But Najam was of the idea that I want to do my own thing as well.
Yeah.
And I want to do something where I'm not scrutinized by the only state-run channel at the time.
Right.
So we said, sure, have your solo career and stay in the band.
Yeah.
But he said, no, I it's either one or the other. I said, you choose. We're going to do a second album with or without you.
Yeah.
And then he chose to not do it. So he left towards the end of 98. And then Sameer and I had this moment where we were like, okay, let's start auditioning people.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to look too far because one of the opening acts for Karavan was a band called Circle.
Right.
Circle had Tansir Dar in it, Adnan Afaq in it, Khalid Khan, bassist, and my old keyboard player from the Barbarians, Vakar. So we were friends, and I went to Tansir and I said, look, we want to do this album.
Yeah.
And 50% of the songs are already written.
Yeah.
You just have to come in and do a Judas Priest thing where you just come in and sing it like it's written.
Yeah.
And so he said, sure, but I'm not going to leave my band. I was like, sure, do both things.
Yeah.
So he came in, and when he came into the band, he soon realized that, okay, these guys are far more professional than my band.
Right.
You know, they know what they're doing. These guys don't. There was a lot of, you know, infighting and all of that. So he eventually just said bye-bye to those guys.
Yeah.
And he became the permanent singer of Karavan. We had an opportunity at that time with the 99 World Cup. Given my ties with Pepsi, they approached us. They were doing a World Cup album.
Right.
And we were in the midst of recording the second album. So we had a song called Umeeden on that second album. They heard it. They liked it. They said, this fits perfectly for the concept.
Yeah.
Give it to us.
Yeah.
So I was like, great. Let's launch this lineup with that. So we did that. It worked. And funnily enough, at the same time, Awaz was also approached to do a song for that World Cup album. This is the last year of Awaz's existence, 99. And Pepsi insisted that Asad has to be on this. So reluctantly, I said, okay. And the guys were more than happy to accommodate.
Yeah.
So I went back and I did that song with them. And sure enough, the minute that happened, the world tour came in, the this came in, the that came in. I was like, okay, now how am I going to balance all of this? You know, so there's Karavan on one side and then Awaz on the other side. But by this point, Awaz had become, Haroon and Fakir were not getting along. And they both wanted to do their own thing. So I saw the end. It was inevitable. So we soldiered on for a little while keeping Karavan going on one side. So I would be, 1 week I would be in, you know, Lahore playing Alhambra with Awaz. The next week I'd be at Behria Auditorium playing with Karavan.
Yeah.
And it got ridiculous because I realized I can't do both of these things at the same time. Luckily for me and unluckily for Awaz, the infighting got so much that they decided to call it a day towards the end of 99. And that situation finished. And then you had Haroon and Fakir solo. That allowed me to focus on Karavan, and then we released the Zafar album after the the Awaz debacle. And it came out, did not do well. And that was the
This is which year now?
This is end of 99.
Before all music started not doing well.
Napster era.
I think people were just not. People were expecting Najam Sheraz to be on it.
Right.
And they didn't take too kindly to Sincere. So it died pretty much. And we tried to revive it. We did a whole bunch of performance videos and this and that, and tried to push them, but people weren't having it. Basically, what I was scared of, and which happened, was that are people going to accept this guy or not?
Yeah.
Initially, they did not.
Yeah. It took some time.
So I was like, chalo, theek hai, no problem. If they aren't going to get this, we'll do another album. Keep shoving it down their throats. So that's always been my philosophy. If you don't like this, here's another one. You don't like that. And that's how you,
Well, as an artist, you just have to keep moving on.
Going.
Right?
Just keep going.
Yeah.
So then we came up with this idea that, okay, this is clearly not working. Let's start doing music that is a little bit more accessible to Pakistani ears. Maybe it'll work. So in 2001, we started recording the album that would become Gardish. Started writing rather.
Yeah.
And that writing process went on a long time. So there was a lot of back and forth. Are we a pop band? Are we a rock band? So we had already written songs like Aage Hi Aage. It's a complete pop song. So there's this whole thing. I was like, I think we should be all things for all people, because it's not like this is, the US where you can just be a rock band or just be a country act or just be a rap act or just be R&B. You have to do everything here. Yeah. So Gardish was really an album that featured a lot of different kinds of music. It had pop sensibilities with Aage Hi Aage. It had Desi sensibilities with Dil Ki Pyas. It had a Zeppelin-esque type thing happening with the title track, Gardish. So, fingers crossed, we shot a video for Aage Hi Aage. Indus Music had come into play by then. So that was like our local MTV.
Yeah.
And God bless him, they played the crap out of that song, right? And they shoved it down people's throats. And that's how you do it, basically. And one thing led to another, and then we started getting all these offers. Yeah, you got to play here, got to play there, blah, blah. And then the international thing opened up for Karavan, which was the very first one was Dubai. And that album changed the way a rock band would do business, really for us. And then you had, a couple of years later, you had your Nooris and your others who came and benefited from that. We toured very heavy for that. Schools, colleges, corporate gigs. All of a sudden, corporate gigs opened up for us as well, which was something you couldn't even think of for a rock band.
So what do you think was the key factor in that change? Because for so many years, rock was like shunned.
I think it was the fact that we chose to do songs like Aage Hi Aage and Dil Ki Pyas.
Bridging that gap, basically.
Bridging that gap. The old analogy, once you get your foot in the door, everything else can sort of, follow.
Blasted open.
And that's what it was. We just needed that one song that, sort of touched the masses' sensibilities, and that was Aage Hi Aage. And it came out at a time where Pakistan had transitioned from, civilian government to General Musharraf, who opened up the media for Pakistan. And it was a time where, by and large, people were happier. I think that has a lot to do with how your music is accepted. I think people...
Yeah, it's like a barometer of the social consciousness in a way, right?
Yes. If people are upset generally, they don't have time for music. Survival becomes the very first thing. At that time, things were good in terms of the economy, in terms of safety, in terms of... you could see a viable future if things kept going the way they would. History tells us otherwise now, but so that was a good time for the band. We wound up doing an unplugged album at some point. We recorded one of our shows that we did for a friend of mine, Majat Rauf. He had a venue called M Live, and he kept insisting, I want you guys to do an unplugged. I want you guys to do an unplugged. And I would turn around to him and I said, man, we're too big to be playing this shithole. It's too small. He's like, screw that, I'll pay you. I was like, you're my friend, I'm not going to charge you anything. So eventually I got the guys to agree to do it. And we did it. We did this unplugged and we recorded it. And when I heard it back, I told the guys, I said, this is good enough to sort of clean up and release. So we did that, and that was the first time we did an internet-only album. I think that was the first internet-only album in Pakistan. So we released it on our website, and you could download it, pay for it if you wanted to.
Bandcamp before Bandcamp.
This is 2005, I think. And it did really well. It had over 100,000 downloads. So we were very happy. We were in a good place at that point. But during all of this time, I did a lot of session work. Like tons of session work. Sajjad Ali, Rahat Fateh Ali Khan, so on and so forth. Like a whole bunch of people. So I would be doing that as well, and the guys would keep telling me, you know, you need to spend more time on the band. I was like, the band is now
It's
self-sufficient,
yeah.
you know. So
off you go.
yeah, off you go. We don't have to like now do all of that stuff that we were doing pehle.
Yeah.
And then at some point, Rohail Hyatt, towards the end of the 2000s, called me up and said, I'm doing this show for a cola company, and it's my concept, and this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So that first year that they did Coke Studio, I could not be a part of it because I was busy with the band.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't give 3 months to you, and then.
Yeah.
The second year that we did it, I said, okay, but I'm not going to give you like 4 months or 3 months of my time.
Yeah.
I'll come in,
Do my
I'm
stuff.
a quick learner.
Yeah.
I'll learn the songs and I'll do it.
Yeah.
So he was okay with that. He knew that, yeah, chalo theek hai, he can do it. He was confident with that. So then that started. And then I stayed on with that show for about another 5 seasons. Yeah, another 5 seasons.
Until Rohail was at the helm, basically.
Yeah. That was fun. That was where I started to embrace a lot of our heritage music. I was aware of it. I dabbled in it. But I wasn't very keen on sort of the tonality of it.
Right.
Probably because in the past it had been recorded really badly and it was hard on the ears.
Yeah. I think that's the major credit to Rohail for making that accessible to the contemporary ears, you know?
Yeah. I credit him for that. Absolutely.
And seeing, although I always had a thing, there's Asad Bhai, there's Umran, but the guitars need to be up in the mix.
They need to be up in the mix.
But at least you were there.
Yeah. No, I totally. I used to have these conversations with him, and he would turn around and he'd tell me, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
He's like, but within this format, this is how we need to present it. Later on, maybe we can do stuff which is heavier.
Yeah.
So I played along.
Yeah.
That was a fun time. So during this time, Karavan was still going on, but it was on a back burner somewhat. Everyone had, got their own sort of things going on. Samir was sessioning, Alan Smith was sessioning. Tansir was the only one who wasn't. So I would kind of feel bad for him, and then I would tell him, here's a jingle. Sing this.
Yeah.
Here's some money. Here you go.
Yeah.
Eventually, we said, let's do another album. And that became the last Karavan album, which was Saara Jahan, which had Kaise Mumkin Hai and Yaadein. My favorite album.
Also mine. Definitely.
That was done at home. No stress. That was the least stressful album that we've ever made. It was done on no clock, no...
On your own terms.
Nothing. It was so peaceful. Yeah. Peaceful. Idea, guys, can you come in? Let's put this down. I said, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Yaar, aa jao, yaar. It was one of those things. Yeah. So we did that. We spent a lot of time doing that.
I wanted to ask, on the Karavan albums, did you because live drums ki bhi ek journey hai na in Pakistani music. For a long time, they was absent completely.
Yeah.
So what was the first album that you did in your career that had live drums?
The Barbarians album.
All the way back.
In 1989.
And how was that, recording drums back at that time?
At that time, we went to the EMI studios in Sight. They had an Allen and Heath mixer and 8-track reel to reel. and we were sort of stuck with this thing. Yeah, okay, you've got 8 tracks to work with.
Yeah.
Right. So how are we going to divide this up? So sure enough, we figured we'll bounce.
Yeah.
Right. So the drums were done, and it never changed. The drums were 4 mics, kick, snare, 2 overheads. That's it.
Yeah.
And we bounced that down to 2 tracks.
Yeah.
So now we had 6 more tracks to work with. So then, the guitar and I recorded the Barbarians album through a PV, what was it? It was a PV Stereo Chorus 212 amplifier, twin speaker. And I was using, for my pedals, I was using a bunch of Boss pedals. Back in the day, you could buy this pedal board, which was a Boss pedal board, and it had you could put your pedals. So I had I'll go back, long time ago. I had a CS2 compressor, Sustainer, it was called, I think. It was a blue pedal. Then I had a Turbo Overdrive, which was a yellow pedal. That's how I remember them.
Yeah.
Then I had a analog chorus, which was the CE1, I think it was called. Then I had a delay, which was the DD2 at that time.
Yeah.
And then I had a really crappy reverb pedal because I couldn't afford a good one.
Yeah.
It was there was a company, I don't know if it exists anymore. It was spelled ARION. Does that still exist? Huh?
I haven't heard of it.
It was a Japanese company, but they were nobody.
Yeah.
And I just happened to find this pedal somewhere. So it was a reverb pedal.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, theek hai, chalo. Usko use kar lete hain. And I had borrowed my brother's Crybaby Wah.
Nice.
Because I didn't have money to buy the Crybaby. That was my rig. That would go into the 212, and we just mic'd it with a SM57. That was my rig at that time.
Nice. And who mixed that album?
That album was mixed by Nizar Lalani.
Achha.
Actually, yeah. We recorded some of it with Asif Saab, who's the EMI engineer. I think one song or 2 songs. And in fact, the very first song, the second song that we did, we recorded there. And I remember the Vital Signs were recording their first album or second album at the time, and in the studio. So their gear was there. So they had an SPX 90, right? And I said, yeah, I need to use this.
Yeah.
I need a flanger effect.
Yeah.
I didn't have a flanger. I had a chorus which can somewhat, you can get that, but it wasn't the real thing. So the SPX 90 had this great flanger sound.
Yeah.
And so on that riff,
Here we go.
the first, let me try and emulate this. I'm just going to use your... Yeah. That was the first sort of foray into that. So I did that riff with the SPX 90.
I have because I saw on Rick Beato's channel how this Andy Wallace used one of those SPX units for his bass sound.
Yeah.
This bass chorus sound in all of his mixes.
Yeah.
So he's check on eBay. सस्ते में मिलता है तो I went and got that.
Nice. Yeah. SPX. It's a legendary rack unit.
Yeah. So coming back. So then after that, live drums. Then Karavan ki story mein, were you recording live drums from the beginning as well?
Yeah. The first album had a primitive version of the Roland kit. before it became the TD.
Yeah.
And those drums were done by a guy called Jawad Baloch.
Okay.
It's Fawad Baloch's younger brother.
Oh, okay. The legendary guitar player.
The lefty.
Yeah.
So those Roland drums would trigger. I had this rack unit. It was the XP80 keyboard rack unit.
Right.
And it had a really nice snare. I always liked that Roland snare.
Classic.
Yeah. So the gated 80s snare, right?
Ta.
So ta, thanda ta. So we used that for that, and during Zafar we transitioned to the acoustic kit for Karavan, and that was Alan's Tama at the time. Again, 4 mic method, and that's what I've always used: kick, snare, 2 overheads. We never mic'd the toms for any of the albums. I still don't. I don't want to.
I mean, it's a different kind of sound.
Yeah. I always thought that the most bombastic drum sound that I've heard is John Bonham, and that's minimal miking.
Yeah.
It sounds huge.
Yeah.
Big sound. It's also how you tune your drums, I guess.
And the player,
And
of
the
course. Yeah. But no, where were we? So you basically did the last Karavan album then?
Yeah, we did the last Karavan album in 2010. And lucky for us, Coke Studio, Rohail approached me, I heard your single, and why don't you, perform on Coke Studio? I said, yeah, but we want to do another song as well. We don't just want to do the single.
Yeah.
So he said, kaun sa gana? So I made him hear Yaadein. And he said, yeah, this is a great song. Let's do it. I was like, okay. So we were lucky. We did that. We got some traction. But the band was, for all intents and purposes, over.
Which is kind of strangely ironic because, for me, it's funny. I was always a rock guy. I know I had known about Karavan, but I was introduced to Karavan through Kaise Mumkin Hai on Coke Studio, which is funny.
The final, the final album, huh?
Yeah, and that ended up being my favorite on the season or whatever. You know? But so why didn't that rejuvenate the band at that point? It was too far.
I think we had grown apart in terms of what we wanted to do. I was being seduced by the commercialism again.
Right.
Because I saw how big the industry had gotten by then in terms of numbers.
Yeah.
And I was like, this has become bigger than I remember it.
Yeah.
The only thing that's changed is back then one act could sell out Wembley Arena. Now it has to be a multi-bill sort of thing, with 3 acts. But the scope of things has gotten much bigger. So where you would do 5 shows on a UK tour and 5 shows on a US tour.
Yeah.
Now you were doing 15 shows on a US tour and 5 shows on a UK tour because they're just UK
It's just 5
tiny places. So the scope had gotten bigger. And then new markets had opened up. Canada had opened up. Australia had opened up. Europe had opened up. Europe was, back in the 90s, Europe was non-existent. You didn't play Europe.
No.
You played mainland Great Britain, and that was it. If you were lucky, you'd maybe play a festival, which was a world music festival somewhere in Norway or Denmark.
Right.
And that was it. That was either Roskilde or this other festival they had in Norway, which I forget. We played those. But Europe was not on the map. Today,
it's like
Copenhagen,
30 dates in Europe.
Oslo, Stockholm, Paris,
Berlin,
Amsterdam, anywhere where there's desis, and the desis are everywhere now.
We've multiplied. Yeah.
So things had gotten bigger.
So okay, but if that was your mindset, what were you thinking? Like, which act you weren't thinking Karavan can go in these places?
No. Karavan was too far gone by then. We had splintered by then.
Right.
In terms of a collective.
Right.
As opposed to, now it had become okay, I'll do that as well, but I need to do this too. And it's partly my fault because I had, I was doing Coke Studio, I was doing session work, I didn't have time for the band.
Yeah.
I was deluding myself, okay, band ko bhi, and it wasn't fair. So I became friendly with Ali Zafar during the Coke Studio sessions, and he told me that I would be honored if you came to India with me, because the music scene, the film music scene over there is exploding, and you really need to check it out. And I thought about it, and I was, do I really want to do that? And then I started doing my research, and I found out that the numbers are enormous.
Yeah.
It's a parallel industry with Hollywood. And he was getting into film. He was going to do his first big film with Katrina Kaif. And I said, at the very least, I should at least check this out. So I went. And sure enough, that led to a lot of big stuff. India at that time was so open to Pakistani artists that, now...
Had you been to India before this?
No, we had never been to India. Vital Signs, Awaz had never been to India. There was interest with Karavan in the early 2000s. We never followed that up. And that interest was because of strings. Faisal and Bilal had transitioned into, in a Bollywood sort of this thing. And they had mentioned us to a lot of people there, and I started getting calls from there. Can you come down and maybe do a song for us, a film song.
Yeah.
But I never took that seriously. When I saw it with my own eyes with Ali, it was huge, massive. There's multiple venues there. There is a appreciation there that you do not get here.
Yeah.
And that appreciation is very deep-rooted because I guess it's part of their culture. Music, art, film is part of their culture. And the musicians over there are generally highly regarded, highly looked at, taken care of, and loved, generally. I can tell you that when we would come out of the hotel, there'd be like 1,000 kids standing outside the hotel, and we couldn't go out. So we'd have to go through the back, in whether we were in Delhi or Mumbai or wherever we were. So that was a different perspective.
The first proper celebrity kind of experience.
We had seen that in England,
right?
With Awaz and the Vital Signs. But this was different because it was closer to home. It was just a border.
It was desis.
And we were like, why are our people not, connecting like this with our music? So that was an eye-opener. So I worked there with Ali for about 5 years, 6 years, until India was completely shut down for Pakistanis.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. And honestly, if you talk to a lot of Indian musicians and producers, they feel the same way.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
they feel the same way.
It's a shame. And but how is it working with the studios or the producers there? Like,
painless.
Yeah.
I remember going to see a recording studio there, and I walked into the studio, massive SSL board, complete Pro Tools setup on one side, complete analog setup on the other side.
Wow.
IMAX screen, scoring, could sit a 72-piece orchestra there. It was a proper $1 million studio.
Wow.
And I was sitting there thinking to myself, कि यार ये देखो यार, ये हमारे से इतने दूर तो नहीं रहते, मगर ये कहाँ से कहाँ पहुँच गए और हम वहीं के वहीं पड़े हुए हैं, एक कोने में. It was an eye opener. It's a shame that this country and the ruling elite of this country never took notice of the immense talent that Pakistan has. They never.
I think it's more than just not taking notice. I think they're afraid of it.
I don't know if that's the right word. I think it's that they have their own agenda.
Yeah.
And this just doesn't fit into it. This
exactly,
is a byproduct of
it's
XYZ.
अगर ये ज़्यादा मशहूर हो गए तो हमारा agenda danger में आ सकता है.
Yeah. So I get it. I mean, I get it. It's fine.
Yeah.
But it's not fine at the same time.
Yeah.
So we won't get into that.
Yeah. It is what we are. The cards that we
have been dealt.
Yeah.
Yes. Correct. So I did that. I did that for a while, and Ali's a great guy. God bless him. He is the total package, and sweetest guy. He's a painter. He likes to paint. He likes to write. Mm-hmm. He sings. He does films. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he knows what he's doing. So, great guy. And super experience. I was on and off playing with him, performing, writing with him, recording with him for about 8 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very good experience.
So in all this time, then the artist era was again brewing, I guess, because then we've had now a run of solo albums from you.
Sure.
So tell us about how that started.
It was on one of my US tours with Ali. I got the idea that I want to go and meet some of these producers, your Eddie Kramers and your Mike Links and these guys, and talk to them and talk to them about how an act from Pakistan can transition into the mainstream American rock. Charts. And I got in touch with a whole bunch of people, talked to a whole bunch of people, went to Electric Ladyland as well, amazing place. Mm-hmm. If anyone goes to New York City, please go to Electric Ladyland.
So tell us about meeting some of these. Did you meet Mike Link as well?
Yes. These guys, all of them said one thing. They said, if you're going to be a Pakistani act and sing in English, and this is a very, very important thing, which a lot of people don't realize, and sing in English and your singer is a Pakistani singing in English, the public at large is not going to buy it. And that there is a bias that exists within the record industry in the US. And then he went on to tell me how African American musicians have endured that whole time and now they've finally been recognized. He's saying it's the same thing with Asians. He was like, it's a long shot if that's ever going to happen. Yes, you can be a Pakistani guitar player with a Gora singer and they will accept you. But if you're going to be a Pakistani act with a Pakistani singer,
but sing in English,
it's not going to happen. So I said, what do? And 90% of the people who I spoke to said that prejudice would not exist if you were an instrumental artist, because you will not be judged like that. And that was like, ting. I was like, okay, that's what I wanted to hear. So I came back and I started working on instrumental stuff. I said, yeah, chalo. By this point, my ambitions weren't, I was thinking about the end, so to speak. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do instrumental music. I know it's not going to be mainstream, but I'm going to do it on the side.
Yeah.
Why not? And now I'm 4 albums in?
Yeah.
And the 5th album's coming out this year, which is called The Final Sessions. I released a single just before Ramzan. And the reason why it's called The Final Sessions is because it is truly the final sessions. These are tracks which some of them were leftovers from previous albums. And they weren't fully realized. They were just, a part, and then I built on that. And some of them were written specifically for this. So this album is going to be the final Asad Ahmed instrumental album.
So how do you reckon this chapter is now?
So this is not going to be the final again. This is the final Asad Ahmed instrumental album.
समझ आ रही बिल्कुल. मतलब something else is brewing.
Yeah, well, which I'll talk about when it's closer to fruition.
Right. So but how has this journey been of like 4-5 instrumental records?
Great. It allowed me to sort of do stuff which I wouldn't normally do in the industry. So this is basically not for the industry. This is for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. But as an artist, obviously every expression and every chapter informs you and changes you in some way, right? So how do you feel this has affected your overall?
It's like the weight of the world has been lifted off your shoulders, and that's what it really feels like. Because you have no expectations, you have no कि यार अच्छा मुझे ये भी करना है वो भी करना है और मुझे इनसे भी बात करनी है, and all local. I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that with this. I put it out there. I use DistroKid. Even though I work at a record label, I use DistroKid.
You just did it all independently.
Yeah. It was so easy. So easy. And then the music industry has become easier.
It has, yeah. What maybe something interesting to talk about, like, do you think the ease has also affected the overall quality of things?
Absolutely has.
Yeah.
Along with a lot of good music, there's also a lot of noise out there.
Yeah.
Music is... A lot of people ask me, yaar, what kind of music? There's only 2 kinds of music.
It's good and bad.
Good, bad. That's it. There's no middle sort of ground.
It affects me and it doesn't do anything to me.
It doesn't do anything. That's it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of bad music out there.
Yeah.
Why that's there is because a lot of these
platforms anymore.
A lot of platforms have said, yaar, sab kuch do.
Yeah.
And I understand that concept as well because it's catalog building. So, along with the good, there's the bad. Right. And the bad actually appeals to other people as well.
Yeah.
Like I never and I will never like rap music. Right? I never liked it. It just never did anything for me. Except for someone like Rage Against the Machine.
Right.
Which I don't consider rap. That's rock.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm never going to buy a rap album or ever sign a rap act. Even as an A&R guy. I'll never do it. Yeah, it's not me. And that's not me being prejudiced. It's just my personal preference. Right? Yes, if I see the rap act is going to sell 1 million copies, I'll sign them. But it's not something that's possibly the only genre of contemporary music that I don't enjoy. I like R&B. I even like a lot of EDM, which people think, why?
Yeah.
As a rock guy.
Yeah.
I actually like a lot of it because I like the sonic textures that are used.
Yeah, and there's still melody in there. There's still
and you can
rhythm
use a
in
lot
there.
of that stuff in the rock as well.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people have done it. 9-inch Nails.
Bilkul.
And so many others. Muse.
Yeah.
I like Muse a lot.
Yeah.
You know, so they've also sort of combined that. So yeah. Where was I?
You were talking about the end of the
Right.
instrumental chapter.
So the instrumental chapter is going to come to a close with this album, and then I'm going to do something else completely, which may or may not work, but I'm going to do it anyway. Gotta do it.
Nice. बीच में एक दो बातें हैं जो हमें that I wanted to talk about. At what point did you get endorsed by
Gibson? Right. So Gibson.
Because that's like, for me growing up, that's like, oh my god, that's nothing can be cooler than that.
The Gibson sponsorship actually came about when Ali told me about Gibson offering him acoustic guitars while we were in India. So Furtado's is the company that does Gibson over there, the dealership, and they had made a deal with Gibson.
Yeah.
So on one of my trips with Ali to the US, I took a side trip to Nashville. And I went to see Gibson. And I told them, I had already emailed them my resume and what I've done and all the stuff that I've worked on. And they were very receptive. They said, we'll give you a tour of the workshop. Do you want to make your own sort of guitar? I said, I'm not I wouldn't know. It's just a piece of wood that I like to play.
Yeah.
But I like how it sounds.
Yeah.
And so at that time, this is 2013, they had just developed a low-end studio model called the LPJ.
Right.
And they said, this is where we're going to be pushing this.
Yeah.
So that's the first guitar I got free from them, which was the gold top LPJ.
Nice.
With blacked out pickups and hardware. So I was like, okay. I told them, I said, it's all right, but I didn't want to say anything at the time. So the next year when I went on the next tour, I went back to Nashville and I said, this is a piece of shit. And they looked at me, but it's selling like, I was like, it's selling because it's affordable, but it's crap.
Yeah.
I don't like these models.
Yeah.
The studio
it doesn't
model.
match up to.
The studio model doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, what do you do? I said, I want all custom shop. All. I don't want to play your standards. I don't want your traditional, your classic, and all the other crap that you have. Custom shop. They were just staring at me like I was on acid. This bloody Pakistani has come from Karachi and he's telling us I want custom shop. So they said, well, we can't give you custom shop guitars for free.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll buy them if I have to.
Yeah.
But I'm not buying them at full price.
Yeah.
So, sure enough, I got a deal where I could buy Gibson custom guitars for 50% off.
Nice.
So a $6,000 guitar was $3,000 for me. And that's how that worked out.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, क्या कहते हैं, coming back to currently, so other than this new project, you've also been at EMI for some time now.
Yes.
So tell us how that came about and how that's going.
EMI is the longest running record company in Pakistan.
Of course, yeah.
They have a catalog that's massive. And
I mean, you just mentioned something like 60,000 songs.
Yeah. So it's gratifying to know that your musical heritage is still alive and curated and taken care of. The first day that I went to see them, I was pleasantly surprised to find that the catalog was very well maintained. And this catalog has you name it. You know.
So this EMI Pakistan is now no longer affiliated with the old EMI. It's its own concern.
So EMI worldwide was bought by Universal Music.
Right.
We are the last existing EMI, as in the old school EMI.
Right. That's not under the Universal.
That's not under the Universal banner. And in some ways that's good because we don't have to change our policy. We're very much a company with a firm foot in the past, looking towards the future. What that means is that because of the catalog that we have and that we continue to curate and come up, digitize, and it's an ongoing process. We're very fortunate to have that and to be the custodians of our rich traditional heritage. Yeah. So I take that very seriously. So I'm constantly in and out of the studio digitizing along with our engineers. So these are pretty much they're 1/4-inch spools which we're converting to digital. So for that process also, we've got specialized stuff. We're using a Pro Tool setup and 96 kilohertz. So the noise flow goes up because those spools, they're, back then you were recording your max was -4 dB. Right. Whereas today you're, brick walled all the way to 0.1. So minus 0.1. So back then you didn't go above -4 dB. So they're quieter. So we bring them up to, current standards. And then everything is, of course, what the current streaming standard is -14 LUFS. So everything is, so we make different masters for that. We make different masters for, Amazon, as per their requirements. So it's great to be with a company like that, and the good thing about this is that the owners and the COO of the company all have the right idea. They're very professional and very humbled to be curating such a catalog. And that's a great thing. They pretty much give me a free hand to, pretty much do whatever I'm doing. And I appreciate that. And as far as the future is concerned, we're definitely going to look into new acts.
Where do you see the future, like sitting in that kind of space? How do you see the future kind of evolving of Pakistani music? Lately, we've had major labels enter the landscape. But the mainstream music is very much, you can say, not musician friendly in the sense case, like, a popular front person and then backing tracks type situation going on.
Right.
You think that's going to flip again and then sometime in the future? Towards live acts. So I was asking, do you think we'll come back around to instruments on stage coming?
Absolutely. I think things go full circle. I'm not a big proponent of having stuff playing back. I understand the logic of it though. But you can't replace organic live instruments, players. You just can't do it.
Absolutely. Plus the element of, now even like with a lot of bands, a lot of modern rock, it's all on a click and the performance is exactly replicated show to show. But there needs to be, I feel, some level of improvisational like room and extend songs. The bands we grew up listening to,
Even
they would have different live versions.
Even rock acts. I had the pleasure of going to see. It was a triple bill in Toronto. It was Def Leppard, Journey, and Peter Frampton. I was pleasantly surprised to know that Def Leppard plays the entire show to a click track. So they sync all their lighting, their screens, everything, all their effects, all the songs where the delay changes and all of that happens. It's all MIDI controlled, which is awesome.
It's a great convenience.
It's a great convenience.
And it ensures perfect replicability, So it's been amazing going through your extensive career. I mean, we're just picking on highlights right now. I mean, there's so much session work as well that you've done, but inshallah, we will do further sessions.
Sure.
But I think now we should go on to some questions we have from you guys in the audience. So let me grab my phone. Okay. I'm going to start with a question from Wahaj Aleem. So Asad, you are an inspiration to all the young musicians who are old school music lovers. My question is how to keep myself motivated as a musician. Sometimes I feel I should just quit music.
Wahaj, don't quit music. If you love what you do, continue doing it. Yes, times can be tough. We all go through ups and downs in life. There's no reason to negate your art. If it brings a smile on your face, it makes you happy, there's no replacement for it. So do not stop making music. That's the only advice I'm going to give. I'm not going to give you career advice because what works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. So just keep at it.
Nice. The next question is from Shazeb. Any chance of Barbarians album getting released on streaming platforms?
So if you were following this episode, Shazeb, you have learned that I recently discovered the Barbarians master lying in the EMI vaults. Yes, something will come out at some point through the EMI label, and we'll try and get that debut album out to you guys.
That would be a nice blast from the past. He goes on, or obviously not doing this, but or are you going to redo those songs with another singer? No, the album is hopefully coming out. Follow-up question, will Karavan, bracket my favorite Pakistani rock band, record again?
The answer to that would be never say never. It's certainly not something that I'm thinking about right now. But yeah, you never know.
He also asks, he has a bunch of questions. How many Washburn guitars do you have?
None currently. Zero.
Currently?
Yeah.
But you
I used to have.
Yeah.
I had a cracked mirror PS 1800, which was
we remember that.
which was the Paul Stanley when he was with Washburn.
Yeah.
Then I had their iteration of a Les Paul, which was a decent guitar. But no, I have none currently. None.
Thanks for the amazing music over the years. Looking forward to more in the coming years. Then we have a bunch of questions from Ghazi Osaf. If Karavan was to cover 2 Kiss tunes, which ones would they be and why?
Ghazi. That's a tough one. Off the top of my head, if I was to make a choice, it would be Detroit Rock City and Love Gun.
Fair enough. Which artist would you choose to be in a supergroup with you?
Which and is that artist limited to Pakistan or? Okay.
Let's assume it's Pakistan.
Okay. Good question. Definitely Gumby.
Yeah.
Because he's just a phenomenal drummer.
Yeah.
My solo band would have Gumby on drums. It would have Anas Alam on bass. It would have second guitar player playing rhythm guitar. I don't know who that could be, but somebody. And a keyboard player. So the only two people who I can think of just off the top of my head who I would want for my solo band would be Gumby and Anas.
I think let's do a live session with this super group right here. We can make that happen. If you weren't a guitar player, what instrument would you be playing and what genre?
If I wasn't a guitar player, I'd be playing bass. It's my second love. I love that interplay of the bass with the drums. And I'm a very rhythm-oriented guy.
Yeah.
So I was a rhythm guitar player first. I never wanted to be a lead guitar player. It was only when Amir left the band that I had to play lead. So yeah, bass comes naturally to me.
Nice.
I think. Yeah. I love the fact that it's the low end of things.
Yeah.
Pumping along.
Yeah. It's interesting you said you never wanted to play lead because
I never did.
You are known a lot for your lead playing as well.
Sure. Sure. I always saw myself more as a rhythm guitarist and singer. I never got into the singing because my delivery of Urdu was so bad that I was like, yeah, I'm not going to sing in Urdu. So yeah, I've done gigs where I've sung in English, top 40 gigs.
Yeah.
And I can do a pretty good job of that.
So you never considered when you're solo, instrumental albums to add some English, singing on top or anything like that?
No, because of that conversation that I had with the producers.
Right.
I figured, let's not go that way, although something might be in the works, but we'll talk about that when that comes to fruition.
Of course. Are you a McDonald's guy or a KFC guy? Ghazi,
a McDonald's guy or a KFC guy? I'm actually... good question. If I had to choose between the two, I'd say KFC.
Yeah. But no KFC these days. Free,
No KFC.
free Palestine. If someone played the main riff to Rakh Aas on an 8-string guitar in gent, would that piss you off?
No. That's funny. No. Okay, so here's the thing. For all of you who think that this guy only listens to classic rock, no, I don't. I had the honor of hanging with Tosin Abbasi, who plays stuff like that,
insane stuff.
and way out there stuff.
Yeah.
So I have a fairly good knowledge of an 8-string guitar.
Yeah.
I choose not to play them because that's just 2 more strings that I have to worry about to keep in tune. But yeah, I like a lot of that stuff. In fact, I'm a big fan of Taka Tak.
Nice.
I really like their music. It's heavy and it's heavy in all the right places. So they have that sort of tonality.
Bilkul.
I'm a big fan. Yeah.
Yeah, likewise. Are you a spiritual man?
I like to think so. I think spirituality is different it's different strokes for different folks. What works for me and what I believe in may not work for you and may not vibe with your thing. But yes, I am spiritual. I believe in karma. It's if I like positive energy.
Yeah.
I'm attracted to people with positive energy, and I tend to shy away from people with negative energy. And I have a very good. I like to think I have
for energy.
I have a very good judgment of where I see dark energy or negative energy, and I kind of stay away from that.
And lastly, I once bought an amp upon your recommendation at VSell. It's to this day one of the finest budget amps I've played, and I had a ton of fun playing on it. I think it was an Ibanez DB50. Thank you, Asad Bhai, you absolute effing legend.
A tone blaster, yeah. Look, Ibanez, if there's one budget company that I think deserves a salute, it's Ibanez.
Yeah.
They gave us the Tube Screamer, legendary pedal.
Absolutely.
They gave us the Iceman, which I love. It's a great guitar.
Yeah.
And the people who think that Paul Stanley, no, it started with Steve Miller. Steve Miller was the first person to use a Ibanez Iceman. And then eventually Paul Stanley changed it. Ibanez gave us the quintessential 80s guitar, which was the RG. Right? That's the largest selling
shred guitar.
Yeah,
for
largest
all ages.
selling shred guitar. And then they came up with a lot of cool amps as well in between. And you know, honestly, for the price, they make really decent guitars for the price. I mean, the $600-700 range.
Yeah.
You can't beat Ibanez.
Yeah. I mean, growing up, that was the only ticket, in that range. Have a couple more questions. One from Mohsen Shah. He's got a mad collection of guitars I'd like to hear about.
Okay. So over the years, I've collected a lot of guitars, sold a lot of guitars, kept a few. I currently have 22, and they're all Gibsons, Fenders, or Martins. I have one Ibanez left, and that's it. So I'm not a Taylor guy for acoustics. I'm a Martin guy.
Yeah.
I somehow think it sounds more. It sounds warmer.
Yeah, it's earthier, warmer, for sure.
And so my ears, the music I grew up, the acoustic music, Fleetwood Mac,
Yeah.
the Eagles, a lot of that stuff was done on Martins
Yeah.
and Guilds. You know, so I tend to, I even like Guild guitars. In fact, that reminds me, I have got to get a Guild Jumbo. I need to get one of those.
Nice.
Yeah.
What about your Gibson collection? Like,
The
obviously
electrics.
we see the custom here, but
I've got, this is the Wine Red Custom.
Yeah.
I've got an Ace Frehley custom shop,
Nice.
which is the 3 pickup with the DiMarzios.
yeah.
The Cherry Sunburst. I've got a Les Paul Custom Light, which is basically
Thinner.
a Les Paul Custom with a thinner body and a coil split.
Okay.
And then I've got a Les Paul Custom Gold Top, which is based on the 1960 Custom.
Yeah.
So it's got a thinner neck. It's the
60s neck.
60s profile neck.
No standards.
No standards. I don't have any standards. So that's my Les Pauls. Then I've got a custom Flying V,
Yeah.
which is actually it's a signature guitar, which I didn't know much about the artist until I played it at the Gibson showroom at the factory.
Yeah.
And then I found out about the artist. It's a Grace Potter Flying V.
Okay.
That only came out 1 year. They had endorsed her.
I don't know about the artist.
And bluegrass artist.
Playing a Flying V.
Phenomenal guitar. Phenomenal guitar. So I picked one of those up.
Nice.
I've got a Explorer, and the Explorer that I have is one that I don't know if many people have seen here. There's no nitro on it. There's no finish on it. It's raw wood.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's nothing on it.
So must feel really earthy.
Yeah, it is. It's super. It sounds great.
Wow.
So that I picked up as well. I've got an ES335, which I really like, in Ginger Burst. I've got a Firebird which I'm 50-50 about. The Firebirds tend to be very neck heavy.
Yeah.
I don't like guitars that do that.
Yeah. Even SGs sometimes.
Even the SG. So I got rid of. I had an SG standard and an SG special.
Yeah.
I got rid of both. And this is going to piss off a lot of Angus fans. The SG is like a cheap ass version of a Les Paul.
Yeah.
And that mid hump that you get with the Les Paul, you don't get with the SG.
Yeah, sounds thin.
Yeah. So why buy an SG? Buy a Les Paul, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite Coke Studio season?
Good question.
This is Rakib Yusuf Dar that asks.
I would say season 6, which was the hybrid season where we did stuff with some Turkish, Italian artists, and that was interesting.
Yeah. I think उस वक्त लोगों को समझ नहीं आया शायद, but it was definitely more musically a bit more ahead than the others.
Yes, that was a fun season.
Yeah. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the questions and the talking bit, and now we will let you speak with your fingers. Thank you for watching, and inshallah we'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed the episode. So, Asad bhai, what is on your board?
What's on your board, huh? Okay, so my signal chain starts with the guitar going into the tuner, which is Ibanez. We were talking about Ibanez earlier. Ibanez Big Mini tuner.
Yeah.
Keeps me in tune. There you go. This actually goes into my wah, which is not here right now. So I'm using a hot tone soul press, which works as a expression pedal as well as a volume pedal as well as the wah.
Okay.
So it's a 3-in-1, which is cool.
Yeah.
That then goes into my Strymon Compadre, which is essentially 2 compressors, an optical compressor, a rack style compressor, basically.
LA2A style.
LA2A.
3A.
Yeah. And then Squeeze, which is the traditional squasher guitar sort of compressor.
Yeah.
I tend to use the rack mount one.
Yeah.
These are my exact settings. I never change them. It's an always on kind of thing. And sometimes I'll mix in my dry signal.
Yeah.
Just to give it some parallel compression.
Yeah.
And it'll usually be about there.
Yeah.
Then on this side, I've got a single knob boost with 3 EQ curves. So full is a full bandwidth boost, volume boost. Mid is a mid hump, and treble is your treble booster. I tend to use this on the mid setting when I'm doing distorted stuff.
Yeah.
With there's a clean boost and a dirty boost switch at the back. So I use the dirty boost on the mid setting. That gives me like a tube screamer kind of push. And when I'm doing it for a clean setting, it'll always be on full, and it'll be around here. So this gives you about 6 dB of additional volume on a clean boost.
Nice. All right, moving on.
That goes into a Department 10 dual drive, which is a tube front end preamp. This is made by Blackstar. Blackstar has a division called Department 10, which is their pedal line. All tube driven. This is a 12AX7. So you've got 4 channels here. The clean, the crunch, you've got another crunch voicing over here, and an OD, which is uber gain.
Yeah.
I use channel 1 for my rhythm playing, and I use channel 2, which is super noisy, for my lead playing.
Yeah.
Right? I can quickly just show that to you. So this would be essentially be my distorted rhythm tone. Do you want to pick? Yeah. I should take a pic. way too much reverb. But yeah, so, and then I'll switch to my Uber gain channel. Yeah, when I need some hair on my regular channel, I'll kick in the boost here.
Yep.
And I'll get this mid sort of driven. That kind of vibe, very mid-focused.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of that then goes into my Strymon Iridium. This is my amp and cab.
Yeah.
So essentially what this is 3 amps in one. So the round, the chime, and the punch setting. Round is your Fender Deluxe, chime is your Vox AC30, punch is your Plexi.
Yeah.
And then they give you 3 different IRs
per amp.
Per amp.
Oh wow.
So I'm currently using the 1x12.
Yeah.
That's my clean amp where I can throw my tube drive into.
Yeah.
Right? If I don't want to use the tube drive, I'll go to the chime setting on the Mesa Boogie cabinet, and it'll give me something like this.
Very nice.
Right? If I want to further get into Marshall territory, I'll go into the punch setting, crank those mids up because every Marshall should be doing this. And go into about this much gain. And I'll play the same riff, you'll get an idea. So that would be my Marshall setting. All of this is connected to the multi-switch, which then helps me to toggle between the 3 amp channels. Right?
That's very useful.
So then this goes into my X Vibe, which is made by IK Multimedia. These are the new pedals that they've got out along with the Tone X. So this is all part of that series.
Yeah.
This does all my modulation. So I've got choruses, flanges, rotaries, tremolo, step filters, doubler, all sorts of stuff on this.
Nice.
So this handles all of the modulation for me. So this comes out, mind you, all of this is stereo. Up until the Iridium, it was mono, and then from the Iridium, we're going stereo into this.
Into effects, yeah.
So from the modulation, we get into the Strymon Volante. The Strymon Volante gives me my basic spring reverb if I want it.
Yeah.
And it also gives me all my tape delays. So it's got a drum echo on it, it's got a tape echo on it, and the studio setting is actually, they call it a reel to reel, but it's actually as pristine as a digital delay would be.
Yeah, yeah.
And also the fact that unlike the MXRs and the Binson and all of that, you can actually pan these heads. So you simply just press this, pan left, press this, pan right.
Nice.
And you're stereo. And similarly, you can do that with all 4 heads. So imagine the imaging, the stereo imaging that you're going to get.
That's amazing. Wow, I need to get this.
Yeah. Then the cool thing about this is all of these also have the preamp built in here. So the record level is actually the preamp of the Benson Echo Rec the Echoplex and the reel-to-reel. So you get saturation from here as well
You can
at
just
your
drive them.
input stage.
Yeah.
Mechanics and wear, self-explanatory.
Yeah.
You can get really cool flutter, wobble stuff happening. The low cut is basically a low cut,
Yep.
right? The other cool thing is different spacings of the heads. So even spacing, triplet spacing, golden spacing, and silver spacing.
Oh.
This is not something you usually see. So
Yeah, that's
this
real
also
tweakability.
yeah, that's serious tweakability. I like the golden setting. It sounds really nice. And then of course the amount of repeats that you need, the level of echo, and also the fact that the machine can even be you can do all of that. You can do all of that by these foot switches as well. You don't have to do it.
Yeah.
So if you want that kind of, half speed, full speed, you can do all of that.
Very cool.
This then goes into my Cloudburst, which is a new product that Strymon has recently taken out, which is based on the algorithm that was on the Big Sky.
Yeah.
Except they tweaked it for this pedal, and they've added sort of like it's kind of like a synth layer.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Let's just hear that in action.
Okay. So we'll move this down to here, crank this up, get some more pre-delay, put the tone down, give it some chorus, and we get
Very Vangelis and like Blade Runner type.
Yeah. Very. I was torn between getting the Big Sky, or another brand that I really like is Meris. So Meris has made this reverb engine. I think it's called the LVX, and it was phenomenal. I tried it, but the learning curve is.
It's very simple.
I'm a very hands-on, tactical guy.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yep. So all of this then goes into the DI, where my line level becomes mic level.
Yeah.
And I get to ground lift if I get noise.
Yeah.
And this goes out to my DAW or the PA system.
Awesome. Well, entire rig in a little footprint.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I think.
Can we hear some of your tones, Asad bhai?
Sure.
Some of the patches that you've got.
Sure. One sec. Okay. So my basic clean sound would just be this. Add some compression. Add a bit of distortion. Add a bit of modulation. Add some delay.
Supreme.
And give it some reverb. That's it. That's pretty much my rig.
Beautiful. What guitar are you holding?
Currently, the Gibson Les Paul Custom Wine Red. Had this forever. And she just sings as far as I'm concerned.
Amazing. Thank you, Asad bhai.